All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Uncommon News, where we cover important topics that are unlikely to appear in the mainstream media. Today, we have a very special guest with us, Patrick Lancaster. Patrick is an independent journalist who is currently on the ground in eastern Ukraine. He is one of the only, if not the only, English-speaking independent journalists in the Donbass region. Patrick has covered the war in Ukraine from the beginning in 2014. He went on to cover the war between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And now he is back in Ukraine covering the current escalations. Patrick, thank you very much for joining us here today. Now, many people in the West are extremely concerned about a possible conflict between NATO and Russia. The United States has sent soldiers into Europe and to embed with NATO, and other units are on standby. Americans are being told that a Russian invasion into Ukraine is imminent, and NATO members seem to have a massive disagreement regarding the proper response to this situation. Training exercises are ongoing on both sides of the border. Threats of sanctions are being made. Warships are moving into the Black Sea, and mercenary groups from both sides are mobilizing. Patrick, can you tell us what is the situation as the people see it in the Donbass region?
Well, the people here definitely have quite a different take on what's the reality of the war than what's shown in the Western media. And just to be clear, so your viewers fully understand exactly what I'm doing and where I am. I'm actually in Donetsk, which is the capital of one of the two breakaway areas that broke away in 2014. What they call the separatist regions, or they're also called the pro-Russian areas. But basically, this area I'm in right now is the center of Donetsk, which Donetsk is the capital of one of the two, as I said, breakaway areas that after they had the referendum where the people voted to break away from Ukraine is when the war ensued after that, because Ukraine wasn't too happy about it. But that being said, for the last couple of weeks, since the rhetoric between the world powers has been getting pretty heavy, I've made it a point to intensify my work here, and I've been going out daily talking to the people that are living in the villages near the front line, under the sometimes or most of the time daily shelling, and talk to the people about what they think about how the Western governments and Western mainstream media are saying Russian aggression is going to be causing an intensity in the hostilities here and possibly across all of Ukraine, as far as the narrative of the Russian invasion goes. And the majority of the civilians here, which you can see on all of my reports over the last couple of weeks on my channel, the civilians say that they literally almost all of them say, "What Russian aggression?" They feel the aggression is coming from the Ukrainian side because they're living under shells that are coming from the Ukrainian side on a weekly, monthly, sometimes daily basis. I mean, some of these. Many of the neighborhoods and villages along the front line have just been destroyed by Ukrainian attacks. Now, a lot of people don't understand how the day and age of journalism works, but when a journalist has been working in a conflict zone, telling the true story of what they see on one side of the contact line, a lot of people say, well, why don't you show the other side? Well, I would love to. I would love to see with my own eyes what's happening on both sides. But the reality is that's not possible in today's day and age, or really any time, because when I show for the last 7 years that Ukraine has been decimating civilian populations and targeting civilian infrastructure, they don't allow journalists like me on that side of the conflict line. And the same thing happened when I was covering the war in Karabakh, when I was reporting in the Armenian-controlled territory. Any journalist that reported in Armenian-controlled territory in Karabakh, Azerbaijan didn't let into Azerbaijan to cover it from that side. And the same goes in Ukraine. So I'm here showing exactly what I see with my own eyes on this side of the contact line and doing the best I can. So the people in the United States and the Western world have a choice to see some information that isn't shown by their mainstream media and doesn't fit the narrative of the Western world.
And you're doing a great job of that, I might add. So are the civilians in the eastern side, are they concerned about Ukraine invading Donetsk?
Yeah, there's definitely a big concern about Ukraine forces trying to come in and taking territory that's controlled by the Donetsk People's Republic and Lugansk People's Republic, for that matter, because it's happened several times before. And like in 2017, when Ukraine did a big push, and of course in 2014 and 15. I asked one man in particular, a miner. I caught him on his way home from work. He was just trying to get back to his home. One of the residents that still lived in this bombed out village near the Donetsk airport. I asked him, what would you do if next week there was a huge war here and Ukraine tried to take over here? And he said what else could he do but pick up a machine gun? I mean, the people here will never submit to Ukraine control again. I mean, every person here has lost a family member, lost a friend, had a friend or family member is severely injured by Ukrainian attacks, whether it was as a civilian or as a fighter. Because in 2014, when the West was saying that Russia was invading then as well, I was here on the front line. I saw how these soldiers didn't even have proper shoes, how some of the soldiers with the machine guns were wearing sandals, fighting against the Ukraine government just because they wanted to break away from Ukraine, because Ukraine was trying to stop the Russian language from being an official language. They were trying to get rid of official Russian holidays like Victory Day, May 9th. That's just one of the biggest Russian holidays. I mean, they celebrate Victory Day like in the United States we celebrate Independence Day. And just think how people would react if some government was going to tell the United States you can't have your holiday on the 4th of July anymore. There would be havoc. And that's what happened here. That's why the locals wanted to break away from Ukraine. One of the many reasons. And Ukraine did not allow this. And the following almost 8-year now war ensued.
Yeah, we've experienced something similar from the secularists in our country. How have the people recovered from the initial hostilities in 2014? Can you tell the audience what the outskirts are like, the infrastructure and the houses and the residential regions are like?
Yeah, right now I'm about, I'd say, about 5 miles from the front line itself. As I said, in the center of Donetsk, but in the suburbs of Donetsk, on the western, northwestern, western, and southwestern sides of Donetsk, the villages that, or I should say what used to be villages that are on the front line, are just completely destroyed. Some have still have some homes left. Some brave people or people that just don't have any other choice are still living in these homes. There's one village that I go to often called Bartok, which is on the north side of the Donetsk airport, where before the war there was somewhere around 3,000 to 4,000 people that live there. And now there's about, last count I checked, was 76 people. Wow. And 100% of the homes and buildings have taken damage from shelling from wow. Ukraine territory.
Wow. Now, this question would be for anyone in the audience that may want to donate to charitable organizations that are reaching out to the people in those regions. Are there any charity organizations that are currently helping the people in those regions that you just mentioned?
You know, the humanitarian aid part of the work that people do here, it's kind of touch and go. Off the top of my head at this time, I don't know any actual reliable places. And there's a lot of locals and Russians, but for the Western world, it's kind of difficult to find something like that.
Is the Red Cross there at all, or have they even made an appearance? Or
yeah, the Red Cross is here. They're the one kind of Western organization that does operate here. They do help some people, so possibly if it's possible to donate directly through them, that could help. I know they help rebuild homes and give food out to some of the people that have lost their homes. So yeah, they're definitely someone that does a good thing for the people here.
Well, that's definitely good to know. I'm sure many people in the audience will definitely appreciate that. Now, how do the people of can you tell the audience how the people of the Donbass and Donetsk area view the Russians? What are their view of the Russians?
Well, I can tell you that as far as the Western media is concerned, it's actually surprising to me because I saw a clip from Vice News just yesterday of how it seems that the Western media is actually starting to open up a bit more about what the real feelings are of the people here. They did an interview with a Ukrainian soldier who actually told the truth and said how they're fighting this war, and they have the people around them in the territory that Ukraine controls who they can't trust, the locals, because the locals are brothers of Russia. And this Ukrainian soldier said the people can be smiling at us as we control their village, but they'll be giving information to the other side because they're not on our side. He basically said the Ukraine government controls that territory, but they know that the people are not with them. They know the people don't want to be part of Ukraine, so they're fighting a war for land that's occupied by people that don't want to have anything to do with them. And that's the truth. I've been here for 7 years, and these people here are Russians. I mean, they're ethnically Russians. You only hear, both before the war and now, the Russian language in these areas. And to add on the fact of almost 8 years of shelling civilians, I mean, I met my wife after my first year here, and even my wife's childhood home has been completely destroyed by Ukrainian attacks, as well as her whole village. And this is in Donetsk, her whole neighborhood. This is in Donetsk, not, far away or something. It's about 4 miles from where I'm standing right now. So yeah, the people are for Russia, and I ask them every interview I do, if there was a vote or referendum tomorrow, what would people vote for? Would they vote to join Ukraine again, to stay independent, or join Russia? And the majority of them would say, of course, we want to go back to Russia.
Wow. Now, in many of your interviews, a lot of people refer to people from the Western part of Ukraine as Nazis. Can you explain why that is to the audience here?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. I mean, one is that there is, full-blown neo-Nazis in. I mean, they without any hesitation post their photos of people in the Ukrainian forces. I mean, there are. I mean, anybody can do any search. It's not, propaganda or something like this. That you can do a search of Ukrainian soldiers' social media. Of course, it's not all of them, but they openly post, swastikas even on their military equipment, and they're. Stepan Bandera, who is a hero of the Western Ukraine, is looked on by Eastern Ukraine as a Nazi sympathizer and someone that caused the death of many Ukrainians. And they look at him as a Nazi and the people that support him as well. So, I mean, these are I try to keep, extreme opinions out of my reports. I trust see, but if someone says it on my reports, I don't edit it out. I do my best. Unlike many other journalists, I try to put complete interviews in my reports. Sometimes my reports get very long, but I don't like to edit people's responses to my questions out in the way I want, like other mainstream media sources do. I show you exactly what the people say from hello to goodbye, just so all the facts get out there.
And I definitely appreciate that, and I'm sure my audience will as well. Now, during many of your interviews, the people have displayed frustration and opposition towards Western attempts to indoctrinate their children into embracing homosexuality. How important is this issue to the people of Donetsk and the Donbass region?
The Russians in general are definitely not very open to homosexuality. It's something that is more of frowned upon in the Russian world, especially like you wouldn't find really any LGBT parades or something like this in Donetsk, Russia, for sure. It's kind of a jabbing point that Russians have against the West as well.
Right, and that's totally understandable. Would you say that the people view these outside influences as an assault on their cultural traditions?
I could say the people definitely feel that it's against their traditions and against what they want for their families.
And that's definitely understandable. Are the people of Eastern Ukraine, are they primarily Christian? And if so, what denomination would you say?
The vast majority of Russians in general are Russian Orthodox, and that goes for the same here in Donetsk. Everyone in Donetsk and in Russia is basically Russian Orthodox. There's also other religions here. There's definitely freedom of religion, that's for sure. There's mosques. There's a couple Catholic churches, and a few other smaller denominations around, but the vast majority is Russian Orthodox religion of the people that I've chosen for a long time to follow.
Patrick, the media over here is trying to paint a picture for the American public. They're trying to tell us that the core of the issue is that Russia is demanding that NATO halt expansion into former Soviet territories, especially Ukraine. However, the United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken insists that the door will remain open for new NATO members to be admitted, including Ukraine. However, not many people in the Western media mention this fact. Patrick, what do you think is at the heart of this conflict?
Well, I mean, how did the United States react during the Cuban Missile Crisis when Russia was trying to be at our doorstep? Why wouldn't we think that Russia would react in a similar way when the United States and the Western world is trying to knock on their doorstep, and especially do it in a way that contradicts what the majority of the population in these, or maybe not the majority, but at least a large part of the population wants. I mean, it's kind of interesting how before 2014, the vast majority of the eastern side of Ukraine wanted nothing to do with NATO. And then the Maidan revolution happened, the war ensued, and now the only people that have anything to say about Ukrainian politics is the people in the West who are pro-NATO and pro-West, and the people in the East who are against NATO live under daily shelling from Ukrainian territory. So it seems like this was something that could be pre-planned just to shut the mouths of the people who live in these areas that are against NATO. But something's got to give. This war's been going on for 8 years.
Yeah.
So it needs.
Now, did things kind of slow down and get better when Trump took office?
You know, when Trump was in office, people really had high hopes that the war might end, especially when they saw that Clinton didn't win, because everybody here was nervous about Clinton taking over because they knew that things would get a lot worse here for the civilian population when Clinton, if Clinton would be president. But Trump won, obviously, and I can't really necessarily things got a lot better because he supplied Ukraine with military aid as well. But I would say it definitely wasn't as bad here as in 2014 through 18. So it's kind of hard to say fully, but that's a little bit of the rundown.
Yeah, so the conflict obviously started under the presidency of Barack Obama. And I don't know if you were aware, but in 2012, British Dutch Shell won the rights to develop one of the shale gas fields in the Donetsk region. And Burisma also got the rights to develop a shale gas field in eastern Ukraine. And if you remember, Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, sat on the board of directors of Burisma. Now, Russia supplies Europe with roughly 40% of their energy needs. Now, obviously, NATO views this relationship as an economic and security vulnerability. I personally believe that this entire issue is an attempt by politicians on both sides, but especially the Biden administration, to sack, or rather to pillage the shale gas fields in the Donetsk region. What do you think about that assessment?
Well, I heard a lot of that from the people themselves, especially when I was in Kramatorsk during the initial siege of Kramatorsk by the Ukraine forces. The civilians were telling me this, our land's already been sold. They're just trying to get us out of here so they can strip the land. You know, the locals are aware of these facts here as well, and you know, and a lot of them understand why Ukraine is trying, or say they understand why Ukraine is trying to get rid of them and shelling civilian neighborhoods on a daily basis. And I asked the people, why do you think Ukraine shells your neighborhood or your streets? And they said just to make us uncomfortable and scare us away from our land.
Yeah, yeah. You know, there's a lot of speculation regarding the agricultural significance of the Donbass region as well. I don't know if you're aware, but the Donbass apparently has some of the most fertile soil in all of Europe. And a lot of scientists have been saying that we are in a grand solar minimum, and the global production of agriculture has proven to be dwindling. And one of the only regions that will be able to sustain an agricultural base is Donetsk and the Donbass region. And so a lot of people are saying that Russia wants that land to feed their people, and Europe wants that land to feed their people. So do the people of this region talk about that? Are they aware of how blessed the soil is beneath their feet?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely obvious for anyone that stays much time here when you see just how rich and dark the soil is. Anyone that has a home, has done any gardening here or anything like this. And yeah, the people know how well off they are as far as being able to grow almost anything here. I didn't quite really notice it until the summer of 2014, when unfortunately, when MH17 was shot down. That's being around that area for the whole month or so is when I first noticed the earth itself. But yeah, it's very rich and fertile.
Now, Patrick, as we conclude this interview, I want to remind my audience that the people on both sides of this issue have more in common with each other than their minor differences. The greedy politicians on both sides always need to pit us against each other so that they can distract us while they pillage and profit from stealing our natural resources. Patrick, I want to thank you so much for taking time to let me interview you today. Please tell the audience where they can find you and how they can follow you.
Well, I'm across all social media. My main is my YouTube channel. You can find me there just by searching Patrick Lancaster. And the same goes for Twitter, Telegram, and Facebook as well. And what I do here is, you know, as I've explained, I just try to show what the Western mainstream isn't doing. I'm not a freelance journalist. I'm an independent journalist. My work is just funded by my viewers. I used to be freelance and give and sell material to other Western media companies such as AP, Reuters, and places like this, until I realized that my work was being altered and not being fully, you know, the truth being told about it. When I sell a piece showing an attack from Ukraine territory on anti-government territory, one time in particular, many news outlets changed it and said that it was Lugansk rebels that shelled an area when it was really Ukraine. So after that, I just stay independent, and as I said, my work is fully financed by my viewers through crowdfunding and other sources. Not all information can be found in my videos. But I'm here on the ground to show exactly the facts of what the Western mainstream media won't show you. So, as I said, find me on YouTube at Patrick Lancaster, and we can show the world together what's happening.
Well, fantastic. Yeah, and you're definitely doing a good job.
And
I want to thank
I'd also like to say thank you to, and I definitely want to thank you for having me, Doug. It's
absolutely.
been, great.
And if you feel led to support Patrick Lancaster, those links will be on his channel. If you feel like you want to donate to his work, please do so. I want to thank everyone for watching. And as always, don't forget, help out your neighbors. Thanks.